we should get started. So, first and foremost, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm very excited. This is the first in our business education series called Higher Education, HIRE. We love that play on words. So we're very excited to have these amazing panelists with us and to be going through some unique opportunities to increase your workforce and have students who are going to learn from you and grow with you in your business. So my name is Alyssa O'Mara. I'm the programs manager, and I will not be on the screen for most of this call. I'm going to pop off and just be answering the questions. But first, before we introduce our panel, I just want to give Patrick a moment to say a welcome. He is the executive director of the New Hampshire Career Academy, who is the sponsor for this three-part series for us. Patrick.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I will be brief too, and then I will hop off so I can listen with the rest of you. But just wanted to come on here quickly. Again, my name is Patrick O'Mara. I'm the Executive Director of New Hampshire Career Academy. Want to thank the Chamber for giving us this opportunity and the venue by which to have this conversation. And I think we're all here because we know that workforce development is a critical topic for all of our futures, for the economy. And what we do at New Hampshire Career Academy is we offer students the opportunity to earn their high school diploma and their associate's degree or vocational certificate at the same time with a 2-year completion timeline completely for free. And then we strive to pipeline those students either into a 4-year program or right into the workforce. So we want to be here to be a resource for you. One of the best ways we thought we could get our name out to you guys a little bit about our mission was to host a panel discussion like this. So we're very excited to be doing this for the next few months. So I hope that you'll take away from today some ideas of how we can all work together to create a stronger, more skilled and resilient workforce. And as I said, I'm really happy to be here. I'm happy that we're hosting this and look forward to hearing what our panelists have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. So very quickly, I am going to run through our fabulous panel, and then if you could all just take a moment to share a little bit about yourself. So we have John Pacheco from the New Hampshire Career Academy Board of Directors. We have Cassandra Driscoll from Best Forward. We have Dr. Mario Andrade he's superintendent of the Nashua School District, and Helayne Talbott, who is, Helayne, what's your official title? You run the entire CTE program, but I'm drawing a blank at this moment.
CTE Director.
Thank you. Since you're on screen, why don't we kick it off with you? Would you mind just telling the group a little bit about yourself and the CTE program?
Sure. This is my first year actually in this role, but I've been with the Nashua School District 21 years. I did start out as a teacher in CTE in the education program, teaching high school kids how to be teachers. And then I went on to be an assistant principal at Nashua High School South for 12 years. And then I moved over to the middle school for 3 years. I was an assistant principal at the middle school. And then I became the principal of New Searles Elementary School for 6 years. And so this is certainly full circle for me. I'm back into CTE where I started, and I'm absolutely enjoying it and loving it. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Helayne. Mario, would you mind introducing yourself and talking a little bit about the CTE program as well?
Yeah, sure. Mario Andrade, Superintendent of Schools here in Nashua, finishing up my 3rd year. Couldn't be prouder of our CTE program. I know we'll get into it a little later, but we had Helayne hosted a great panel session last night where we had 150 business partners with our teachers and talking about their collaboration. So we're looking at rejuvenating our CTE program under Helayne and better partnerships throughout the community. A little bit about me and CTE. I've been having a strong desire to improve our workforce development programs and our CTE partnerships. For the last 10 years, I've been on a national panel on real-world learning, and working with Digital Promise and other school districts and chambers of commerce across the country on how do we have better pathways for our students to engage in real world learning. So I've been involved with CTE programs and reimagining high schools and pathways and workforce development for over 10 years now, and it's a great way, and it's a great example on really how is our CTE programs and our collaborations with business partners and nonprofits across the community, really the way that we should be doing high school and growing our workforce. So looking forward to today's conversation.
Thank you, Mario. Cassandra?
Hi, I'm Cassandra. I am the service manager over at Best Ford. I've been in this position for about a year, but I've been in the auto industry for about 10 years now. And this is my first year working with the students. And it's been really eye-opening and inspiring and seeing some of them grow with us. So I'm extremely excited for everything that we've done so far and what we plan to do in the future with us continuing to grow.
Thank you. And last but not least, John.
Hi, I'm John Pacheco. I'm a board member on New Hampshire Career Academy. And as Patrick explained, we have a wonderful program to allow high school students to get both their high school diploma and an associate's degree in a single program. My day job, I'm a senior manager at Amazon and have been so for 13 years. And in that position, I have seen a lot of students come in as part of joining Amazon in a technical sense. And I've developed a lot of interesting insights and opinions on where our education system is really strong, where it's not so strong, and how we can better prepare students to be ready to enter the workforce effectively. So look forward to chatting with everyone on that.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to jump right in. We have some pre-sent out questions that we had received in advance from people. And then as we move through, anyone in the audience, please feel free, again, pop those questions in the Q&A section, and I'm sure everyone would be happy to answer them. Helayne and Mario, I'd love to start with both of you. Could you talk just a little bit about what types of certifications and pathways are currently available through the Nashua CTE program?
Well, I can certainly share some of them. We have 16 programs, so I'm not sure I can share all of them, but one of the things that CTE programs are required to offer is called an industry recognized credential. So all our programs try to offer some sort of industry recognized credentials. So for instance, we have a program that's called Health Occupations. And so the majority of those students do earn their LNA. Some of those students decide to go a different route, and so they may want to be a dental assistant, so we'll give them internship opportunities at some local dentists. I have students that are working at CVS. They were actually just offered a job through their internship, a full-time job. They're more interested in the pharmaceutical piece of healthcare. In our auto program, as Cassandra probably knows, the students try to earn a certification. I believe it's an ASE, their ASE certification. We have a culinary program. All the students in that program need to get their ServSafe certification. So depending on the program, there's different certifications. Most of the trades programs, including manufacturing, work on their OSHA 10 certification. So the students are virtually graduating with these certifications in hand, and so they come prepared to the workforce just a little bit, stronger than maybe some of their high school peers that did not take some of these programs.
Wonderful. Thank you, Helayne. John, can you talk a little bit about what makes the New Hampshire Career Academy's model unique compared to perhaps other workforce development models?
Yes, I'd love to. So what we are ending up doing is we're taking high school students who would normally be entering their senior year and going into the program. They would take their classes at the local community colleges, and at the end of the program, within 2 years, they would actually graduate with both their high school degree and their associate's degree. So they would be coming out. It's an accelerated program, so they would be expected to work a little harder to get that. And by that definition, the quality of the students would be a little higher for entering the workforce. Part of what we're also trying to do is to train them and to find business mentors and partners with them so that they would actually be a little better prepared to enter into the workforce rather than just coming out with a regular degree and then searching for a job that way.
Wonderful, thank you. Cassandra, can you talk a little bit about Best Ford? I know you've said that you've only been there for a year now, and that but you've had some experience working with the students. So can you share with the listeners, what inspired Best Ford to start working with the CTE program and take on these students as interns?
So before I got here, they have had kind of a program already set up. So when I came on, I hadn't had any experience with it. And, I kind of came on when we had 2 students that had just graduated from one of the asset programs. And they are some of the best employees that I've ever worked with, which only inspired me that much more, seeing how valuable they were and how, just giving them the opportunity and supporting them really made a huge impact on them. So we have started to grow and add more students, and now it's kind of starting to become a passion for me to watch them come in, grow, learn, and become some of the best employees I've seen. So
Wonderful. I'm going to swing back to Mario and Helayne. When it comes to the time commitment and expectations for businesses and for your students, what are we looking at for that? Is it just for like seniors, or is it for anyone entering the program maybe at a younger age? And are they with these businesses 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week, 20, all that?
To be honest, it really varies. It's based on the student's needs and where they are in terms of their credits. I would say the majority of the kids that go out probably are seniors, but not to say that juniors can't go out. We really try to look for opportunities based on the individual students and sort of what their needs are and where they stand at the high school in terms of their credits. So there's not really a set amount of hours, but I know, for instance, at Best Ford, the students, I think we have 2 or 3 right now, they go during what's considered their last block class, which works out well because I believe they stay there for the rest of the afternoon, but that class starts at about like 12, a quarter to 1. So they drive over there, they spend that last block, which is about 88 minutes. And then I think what Best is doing is once that 88 minutes is completed, I think they actually are paying them as employees after that. But again, the models are very, very different. One of the things that becomes a challenge for the students is if they don't drive, transportation is certainly an issue. So sometimes that's when we try to have employees come in and work with the students in our programs. But like I said, there's no, I mean, if a student has a modified schedule and they have a whole block off, we may try to set them up with an internship for the whole year, for the whole block. I have a student right now that's looking, she actually takes vet tech at the Alvern High School, and I just got her into the Humane Society. So she's going to be there a whole block, every day for the rest of the year. So again, it depends on the students and sort of what their credit looks like.
Yeah. Alyssa, if I could add on that, I think the other aspect too is like, what's the right ask? What are we looking for, right? It's not just internships, right? Because that's a huge commitment on a business partner as well. So it needs to be really that kind of relationship building, a little marriage on what's the entry point for like Best Ford, what's their capacity, how can they handle it, and also what the students in the CTE programs need. But a partnership might be something as simple as coming in and actually being on a panel like what we're doing. Just 45 minutes of having a couple industry partners come in, assess student work, kind of give feedback. It's real life, like review a business plan for like an accounting class or a business class, So I think it's really that connection, and I think what, some of the questions coming later, what scares business apart is I don't have the capacity for a full-time intern to take on somebody new, or what's the insurance implications? So we have to really identify other ways that there could be partnerships on, again, it's just a job shadow. It's making people aware of what happens in Best Ford. I'm thinking of all the positions, right? You have marketing, sales, communication, auto, there's a lot that goes on in the accounting office. There's a lot of opportunities where students may or may not know about, but again, it's that relationship and what's the right entry point. And if a business can identify what their capacity is, and we can identify a need, then the relationship is going to be stronger. So I think where businesses need to hear is it's not all internships or nothing. So we just really need to look at what is the right point on a continuum on high, devotion to low devotion, a lot of time to a little time, depending on, again, what those needs are. I know we have a couple businesses that just come in. It's part of like their community service from their company back. So they're just helping our kids like cleaning up areas. But now someone's like, oh my goodness, here's this company with green shirts helping us out, like just clean and getting to know what people's lives might be like working for that company. And again, that just might be the awareness that actually sparks an interest for a kid. And that's sometimes more important than setting up a bad internship.
That's great. And you're right. It's so important for everyone to understand that it can be as simple as just a site visit too, right? Like just popping in to see how everything works for an afternoon or an hour. Wonderful. John, can we shift over to you real quick? I am curious how, you've mentioned the community colleges. What role are they playing in supporting your work-based learning model? Are they assisting also with job placement afterwards and also with these internships?
Excuse me, sure. So we're working on a program right now, since this is still a very, this program is very new. We're trying to find partners in business to help us to mentor the students in certain ways. So one of the things we're working on now is the idea of having all the students once a year go in for an early interview, just a practice interview, not for a particular position, in which case they would practice their skills in working with some of the local businesses. We're going to try to find folks who would participate with those interviews with us so that they could learn about the students and the students could actually learn how to take an interview. And then this would not be for credit. This would just be something they would have to do. And then they would repeat the exercise once again at the end of the year to see how much they've improved. Because one of the things I found in the business world is that a lot of fresh out students have no idea how to take an interview and they just do badly. They just do not know how to articulate the points and they are uncomfortable speaking about themselves. And we're hoping through this activity that they will just present themselves better and make better candidates going out there. The idea is the business communities would be able to help us with this and they would get something out of it. They would be able to evaluate the candidates earlier and develop mentor relationships and ultimately get, good employees coming out of this.
Wonderful. So I would like, following up on that, you both have both the CTE program and New Hampshire Career Academy. Obviously, relationships with businesses are wildly important for the success of your programs. So just for anyone listening right now, how would a business go about partnering with your organizations, but either program, and you can feel free to jump in either organization, the best way to reach out and start building that relationship?
So, I mean, I can start. We're still at the board level putting together exactly how that would work out, but reaching out to the director of the program, in this case, Patrick, at the moment, we would be able to figure out what would fit best for the individual basis on an individual case by case basis. So we don't have in our mind a one size fits all model for businesses. So if you could only devote a little bit of time, we could find a way to make that work. And if you had more time you wanted to devote, that would be even better, and we could make that work out. But right now it would be reach out to the school director and we could work together to find a way that to create a custom program that best fits the situation.
And I would say the same thing for Nashua right now. Next year, we will have a position that will be like a work-based learning coordinator. And my hope is that that person is going to get out, be part of the chamber, really get to know the community, and help us with that. But right now, I would say people just reach out to me, and people, businesses do all the time. So the word is certainly getting out there. But like I said, once this position is hired, that person will be doing all that liaison work between the teachers and the businesses.
Fantastic. Cassandra, can you talk about any advice, share any advice that you would give to businesses who are perhaps considering reaching out to one of these programs, but also a little bit hesitant about maybe the expectations there, or just the investment in a young person's career?
Absolutely. So I do see a lot of other places that are extremely hesitant and only kind of look at the negatives and it's kind of extremely short-sighted. You know, if you kind of create this great environment and you're looking for long-term employees, like, this is the best way to do that. You know, you're not having to deal with, you know, untraining bad habits and attitudes. We all started somewhere. So if you sit there and you set up the program correctly, and, you know, it's just like interviewing a student coming in, finding out what they're looking for, what they're expecting, letting them know that they're going to get out of it what they put into it. And then just kind of constantly following back up with them, and making sure that this is the right fit. I mean, in the long run, you have less turnover, and just you see more loyalty when you kind of go about it that way. It's fantastic for me. It's easier to grow, you know, somebody into the way you want it to be than to wait for that perfect employee to come walking through that door and paying extra and finding out that they're not really the perfect, you know, employee for you. So it's beneficial both ways.
Let me back that up in saying one of the benefits that the businesses would get to doing that is, as you're working with the students, you have a very powerful influence on them. Just being the first person or the earliest person to talk to them, they're going to look to you, and you will have a very strong influence on their positive outlook, meaning they're going to look to you to join you later on, just because you're there, you showed up, and you helped them to do an interview because you're a friendly face. You've actually spoken to them. They're putting a personality on to a name, because when students are out there, the whole world's a big, scary place, and you've actually put a friendly face on it. So it's a very positive way to approach things.
This is a question for all of the panelists here. What do you feel like is the biggest misconception that businesses have about work-based learning programs?
I mean, I guess I wonder if they think they have to be paid. One of the things that I'm finding a challenge has been working with the Department of Labor, just in terms of the insurance and the paperwork. And so it is easier if they are paid, but they certainly don't need to be paid. We just would like them to have the opportunity. And I think Mario said before, it doesn't have to be a whole day. It could fit whatever needs, you know, the business has, and we could make it fit. We have so many students looking to get out that it's not an issue to fit a niche, I guess.
Yeah, and I'll just echo that. I think that's the biggest aspect when we're working with businesses. It's still the perception that it has to be an internship, 40 hours a week, and that aspect of it. So when we say there's a continuum of partnership along the line of where we can partner, it alleviates some of the anxiety, because some of those other obstacles could be, as Helayne said, are we paying? What's the insurance? And then when we say there's other entry points, we see a light kind of go off saying thank you. So I think that the biggest misconception is it has to be an internship. It has to be a full-fledged program. So if we can change that narrative, I think we can grow more partnerships.
It's funny, I just received an email as we're talking that one of my students from our video productions program just received an offer from a company called Events United. It's a production house, and he's the youngest intern that's ever been selected, and he was selected over hundreds of applicants from the state. So the teacher is just super excited, and he just shared it. So those are the kind of things that we hope for, and it's super excited for my teachers as well. They love to see the kids in their area, you know, that they're studying in the field.
That is wonderful. And I was going to ask about a success story at some point during this call. So I appreciate you sharing that. John, did you want to say something?
No, I was going to follow up on what Dr. Mario said. There is no set time that's a minimum, that even if there's a very limited time, it can be custom fit to make a difference. So even just one day showing up would make a big difference. Doesn't have to be a 40-hour commitment or a program.
Wonderful. Cassandra, can you share with everyone listening, have you seen any like real measurable ROIs, financial or otherwise, by engaging in this work-based learning program?
Well, because we have a couple different programs, from, you know, just shadowing and not paying, and, you know, then we have the internships and everything else like that. It's extremely, like I said before, it's a little bit more cost effective to train the right employee than it is to try to get the perfect employee, pay, you know, higher amounts to find out it's not the right fit, or maybe it is the right fit, but you don't know their loyalty or anything else like that. But we have seen just a huge difference, because most people are thinking that you're going to go into the auto industry just being a service technician. You know, once they get into a dealership, you know, environment, they see that it's not just technicians. There's advisors, there's parts advisors, there's salespeople, there's finance and BDC. So just getting them in the door and seeing all aspects of, you know, a dealership. You know, so if we don't find the right fit and they don't want to be a technician, we have all different aspects that we try to kind of introduce them to see if that is going to be the right fit. So it's more cost effective for us. It's more loyalty. And again, it's just getting a fresh perspective on these students and, you know, how they see different things that could be done differently. And, you know, it's not just us teaching them, they're teaching us as well. Because you always have everybody that's set in their ways and they don't want to change, but it's always changing nowadays. So it's beneficial both ways. We can always improve no matter what. So it's just been great.
I love that so much. That's like a tagline for businesses, right? Like, we're learning from them as much as they learn from us. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Helayne, you touched on it briefly about paid positions. Can you, or Mario, can you share about the work-based learning tax credit that employers can perhaps qualify for, and how they would go about applying for that if they were to take on an intern or job shadow from you guys?
Yes, so I know they get a tax credit, and I've always known that, but I really didn't know the intricacies. So I printed something from the Department of Revenue Administration. It just says that they receive a tax credit against business profits up to 50% for salaries of students and supervisors participating in work-based learning, and up to 100% supplies and equipment donated for related use to an educational program offered by the regional CTE center. It says additionally, up to 50% of the cost of apprenticeship and training programs offered by the CTE center, including the compensation of employees and direct supervision and training of the students in that program. So it says for more information to reach out to the New Hampshire Department of Ed website. So I know that our business partners do take advantage of that because they tell me they do, but I don't really know the intricacies intricacies of how to go about it. It does say that the credit taken on the New Hampshire return shall not exceed 25% of the tax due before any credits are taken into account. So.
Wow, that's fantastic. Cassandra, we had a question that popped into the chat for you. Kathy is asking, do you see better employer retention from these students who have later become employees at Best?
Absolutely. I have had 2 students that graduated from one of the asset programs, and they're still with us. And one of them has become our specialized transmission technician and is actually one of the most amazing technicians I've worked with. And, we only had one student that didn't continue on with us. All the rest of them have continued to stay with us, and we're continuing to support them. And depending on the different program that we go with, has all different types of options that we have for supporting them. But investing in them and showing that we do want to get behind them and we do want them as employees really makes it so they are that loyal to us. And I haven't hardly had any turnover at all since this.
That's so impressive. Fabulous. Chuck also put a question in the chat for all of you. It's a 2-part question. So the first part is for all of you. He said, this concept and program is so very commendable. Can any of you share if and how it is implemented on the state level, as well as how widespread this movement is towards real world learning beyond our little region?
This is I'm sorry, did you say this was from Chuck?
This is from Chuck, yep. And he's asking about, like, at a statewide level, how widespread this is.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah. So I can speak to just the organization that I'm part of. It's the New Hampshire, it's called, we say NICTA. It's the New Hampshire CTE Directors Organization. And basically, this is all we talk about. Most schools do have this work-based learning coordinator. And basically, we're funded through federal funds called the Perkins Grant. And so the directors meet every month and we share ideas and we look at, RSAs and how it's affecting our schools. And so I feel like it is really supported within the state, especially through that organization. We'll see every year, we wait to see what the money is. So we haven't heard yet what this year is going to look like. We're holding on, but I would say that it's very supported. I went to the Portsmouth Naval Base last week with the directors group, and I was blown away by the opportunities that our students have at that naval base, from careers in education, because they have a little childcare center on site, to plumbing, HVAC, pipe fitting, engineering, manufacturing. I mean, every single trade is represented there, and there are so many opportunities. And they want us to bring the students. They want to come to us. I mean, they're just an amazing partner, and that I learned through the state group that I'm part of.
In the second part of the question, are we innovators here in Nashua, or are we, or behind, was the second part of Chuck's question. And I have to say, I think it's through our community partners that I think we're ahead of the curve. Like I can think of even like doing air quotes more in the traditional programs, but for our electricians and like that class, when we were building McCarthy Middle School, our CTE programs were able to work with our construction companies, the electricians on site, to go down and build a school that was built in 2024, state-of-the-art industry partners, ahead of the curve. So I really commend our business partners of getting our kids into real world, building a school that's going to be, a model in Nashua for a long time. So I think we have innovative partnerships, mindsets kind of going forward. We have programs that are around drones. And so we have kids who are operating drones, and, we were having a conversation last night on Are there potential drone pilot license in the near future? We're running a cybersecurity program. So we're trying to be innovative, but even when you look at automotive, you know, like again, traditional, but we have great partners like Best Ford, right? And really getting ahead of the curve. So I think our mindset's really the innovation. It's around innovation, always the continuous improvement and not being static. So, and I see your hand, Helayne, classroom teachers pulling in. But it's also around really the that continuous growth, and we're the second largest CTE program in the state. So we have a number of students, not only in Nashua but surrounding districts coming to us. Sorry, Helayne.
No, I was just thinking about innovation. So I think one of the things that's important to share is that we have become very innovative within our own school communities. So we have school stores in both of our buildings. Obviously, we have North and South. And those school stores are dynamic. They're selling things that the kids buy every single day, like smoothies and these fancy coffee drinks, you know, in addition to the popcorn and cookies and all the regular healthy cookies, all the regular things that a school store at a high school would sell. But we have different teams from different areas of our CTE programs, such as business, finance, marketing. And so all those students work on teams to run that school store. And last year, Mario and I went to a presentation at the end of the year, and we were blown away by the profit margin that this school store came out with for the year. We also have Jeanne d'Arc, who is a credit union that has a branch within our school. So we have finance and business students that are working within the credit union and getting the work-based learning right within the school environment. So I feel like we've tried to use our district as much as we can. Our early childhood program or careers and education program goes out every year. The second year students go out to all of the elementary schools. They try to stick with the Title I schools where they can use more support. And the students work in the classrooms 3 days a week. So there's lots of innovation, you know, that's going on right in our own buildings. But certainly our goal is to get out into the community more as well.
Fabulous. John, do you want to touch on New Hampshire Career Academy and perhaps the multiple locations throughout the state, the different community colleges that you are currently working with, and perhaps growth opportunities? Because I feel like that segues as well into that question.
Sure. Right now, we are associated with the Nashua Community College and the Manchester Community College. I am not sure if there are others. I'm relatively new to the board. Patrick is online. He might be able to lend that a little more depth. There was a question in the excuse me, in the list that I did want to touch on, if you don't mind. And someone asked about the intangible skills.
Absolutely.
And that's a passion that, excuse me, that I've kind of brought to the table here. And that brought me to the table here, I should say. In my experience in interviewing literally hundreds of fresh out, mostly college students for different programs, it was almost never that they lacked technical abilities in whatever job we were talking about. It was the fact that they couldn't communicate well during an interview. They couldn't make eye contact. They, in some cases, they were just too nervous, and they were very willing to answer a question, but you had to pull all the data out of them, and they couldn't carry on a conversation. And these are very easy to remedy, but it is a skill that they have to practice. And one of the programs we're going to try to put into place is to have these sort of practice sessions, because let's be honest, no kid actually wants to go in and let's do interview practice. They all hate that, but it's really, really good for them, because at the end of the day, when they show up for an interview, they're going to be compared to their peers, and almost always the person who comes off better, who is more likable, who is easier to talk to, is going to get the job. And they will generally make a better employee if they're easy to talk to. Now, many will develop along the way and come out of their shell, but we're going to try to get them out a little earlier. So those soft skills are super important. Even if in the day-to-day job they don't make a difference, they make a difference in getting the job in the first place.
Wonderful. Thank you, John. Patrick did respond in the chat because he has dropped off the panelist, but he said that Manchester Community College, Concord Community College, and then Portsmouth Rochester, which I believe is Great Bay Community College, if I recall correctly. Cassandra's nodding, so I think that's right. Which is fantastic. So you are throughout the state, and we have the Nashua CTE right here in the city. I'm very excited for everyone who is watching this call and who will be watching it in the future on our recordings, because these are such incredible opportunities for the students and for the businesses. Cassandra, Kathy actually asked a question in the chat as well. She asks, has Best Ford taken advantage of the tax credit that was just discussed by Helayne? And if they have, how did they go about doing that?
That question I am not 100% sure about. I believe they have, but we're also looking into all other different types of programs to help also get like scholarships for students, grants to help with getting them tools or whatever they might need for their schooling or for actually starting their careers. So the tax, I don't know a whole lot about, but I believe that they have in some aspect. But I'm actually going to be looking a little bit more into it myself to make sure that we have, and I can kind of learn along the way too.
The more you know, we're all learning today. Fantastic. This is a question both for John and for Helayne and Mario. What types of students do you feel thrive in these opportunities, and how can we support any students who perhaps are facing barriers at this time into maybe getting into these programs?
I mean, I think like any class, the kids that thrive are the kids that are motivated, that have support at home. I have a student that helped me with a chamber event that we did, and he was sharing with me that he's in automotive, he's in manufacturing, he's part of JROTC, and you know, pretty much when he got finished telling me what he was doing, I'm thinking, when do you sleep? So I think it just, you know, like any class, it comes from within. I think some of the challenges that we see at the high school level are like the language barriers, because we have a lot of students that don't speak the language. So we work with them here as best we can, you know, using different strategies, but certainly that is always an issue. We also have students that have issues with socioeconomics. I would say for me, the one thing that I'm struggling with is transportation if they don't drive. So that's another challenge that they face.
Yeah, I think I hate to put a profile, right? Because the kids that are successful are the ones that have the aha moment, right? So you might see a student in class who's not motivated, not engaged, and you're like, oh, you know, little Mario or big Mario, whatever age, you know, the student's at is like, doesn't have the profile, but all of a sudden, they go to a work site and they see it in action, right? They can't actually, in math class or an algebra class, figure out fractions. And all of a sudden they're on a work site and they're building a deck, and all of a sudden the numbers come alive, and they're like, now it matters. And so we could, I don't want to profile a kid out of an opportunity due to lack of motivation or interest in a class. But when you get a tool in their hand or they see the real world application, the light goes off, they have an aha moment, and then you can't stop them. So that's when a student is successful, is when they get that spark, they get that aha moment, they have the intellectual curiosity now. It's almost like the constructivist approach, right? Throw the kid into it, let him figure it out, and then we'll apply the you know, the formulas and the background information later, but we have to get that spark. And those are the kids that are, you know, they'll find a way to get there, right? They'll take 2 buses, a bike, a horse, whatever, to get to the job site if they want to be there, right? So that's when the kids are really successful, is how do we find that spark? And that's where the motivation comes in. And I think that's true to any employee, right? That's the organizational culture. So I don't want to profile students saying they won't be successful because they're not motivated in 7th or 8th grade. They're just not seeing that connection. So I think it's our job to find that spark, that intellectual curiosity, that aha moment for the student, and then you're going to have that student or future employee who will never quit you.
Thank you both. John, actually for everyone, Adriana, who's on this, one of the people in the chat, has shared her contact information, and I told her I would connect you all afterwards, but she is a volunteer with SCORE. And she is mentioning, for students who perhaps want to own their own business after going through and getting these trade certifications, that SCORE could be a great resource. And additionally, John, I feel like that kind of segues into exactly what New Hampshire Career Academy is doing, in that you can go through the program and perhaps get your certification in whatever category it is. And you can also do an associate's degree in like business or something. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. There are a number of different areas into which a student can enter. There's criminal justice, there's computers, there's business. It's also a segue into getting a 4-year degree. So once you're in the program and working toward your 2-year degree, that could easily segue into other colleges, even if they're not directly supported by the community college. So it's a way to move forward, not necessarily going into owning your own business as the question answered, but it is a segue. And in my own perspective here, a student who is interested in an accelerated program like this, where they want to achieve getting an associate's degree in half the time if they were to go a traditional route, those are good candidates to go into business. That sort of go-getter attitude is prevalent. So I think anyone who goes through the Career Academy would be a good candidate for owning or running their own business, just because of the attitude it takes to get into the academy in the first place.
Wonderful. This question is for all of you, and I think it's a nice end of the call wrap up question. But how can employers, schools, high school level CTE programs, community colleges, and programs like the New Hampshire Career Academy, how can they work together effectively to help build a sustainable workforce for New Hampshire? One of the things that's come up this week a few times in discussions for us here at the Chamber was the fact that, there was a study done last year, I believe, or a couple of years ago, that said in the next 10 years, there's going to be 198,000 open positions in the state of New Hampshire. And right now, our workforce anticipated number would leave 191,000 openings out of those 198,000 jobs. So obviously, these relationships are hugely important in keeping students in New Hampshire and wanting to work here. And I would love to hear from each of you how collaboration and working together can really push that pipeline forward.
I can start, because I hopefully made the point earlier that participation in the Career Academy or any of these programs gets the business in front of the students. It gets your name in there, it gets you associated with them, and they will have a positive attitude toward that business just because of the association with the students in the program. So if businesses are concerned about getting that pipeline of trained candidates or potential candidates into the system, participation in these sort of programs is a really good way to seed the field, so to speak, so that not only can you find qualified students, but the other students will see the associations you're having with their fellows and just generally provide a good name for the business within the community as a whole, above and beyond what the business does itself.
And I guess what I'd like to add is we haven't really talked about it. So most of my classes, the majority of my classes also receive credits from NCC and Great Bay and Keene State College. And last night at the event that Mario discussed, we had pretty much 3 or 4 department heads from Rev. And, I agree with John, just by the schools keeping in touch with us, coming to our events, showing their faces to the students, and offering the opportunities is what we're looking for, especially for the workforce, the internships. The visits in are just as important as the internships where the kids are going out. So, I mean, I think it's just that constant communication.
Yeah, I have to say that's $1 million question, and maybe like with the economy, $1 billion question, really in that need. But I think part of the conversation is, number one, is always ongoing collaboration, always talking. We probably should have more business school roundtable discussions. And Adriana and Chuck in the questions hit on a lot of things, like workforce development isn't just an internship or an awareness, right? So we're working on a portrait of a graduate. What are those lifelong skills? How will we, effective problem solvers, communicators, critical thinkers. So I think, like, how do we redefine what does a graduate look like, and then marry it again, what's in that workforce development pipeline, right? Because we hear it over and over again, like, we don't know, like, the jobs of the future aren't even created today, right? So, like, the schools aren't going to be nimble enough, like, to have specific pathways for every single opening. However, there are common themes, as Adriana said, around, communication, problem solving, collaboration. Those aspects have to be, part of everybody's, career and, pathway, right? Every graduate should be having that as a foundation. And I think we can't lose sight of that. So it's just not students going through CTE programs or in an internship, but every graduate should have at least a baseline that will be in that pipeline for workforce development. And so I think we need to have those conversations. And again, talk to our business partners. And when we talk to a lot of them, is they're not looking for the graduate from MIT when the kid's 18 years old or 17 years old, right? They want that. Are you showing up on time? Are you resourceful? And then the businesses are saying, like, if I can get a steady student or a young employee, I'll teach them the skills, right? And so that's where what's the on-job training that happens as well. So I think we need to be clear on what are we looking for, what does a good graduate look like, and then is that student flexible, adaptable, have that intellectual curiosity, a lifelong learner, because the jobs are going to continue to change. So I think that's some of the collaboration between schools, no matter what school, public school, charter schools, community college, higher ed, on how are we developing the workforce. And I think those are strong communications. And it goes back to Adriana's points. It's a lot of the soft skills. So, and then how are we getting students prepared there? So I think that's an important conversation.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. I feel like this is a great way to wrap everything up here. For those of you who are watching at this point or later on, please feel free to reach out to me if you would like more information on the CTE program or New Hampshire Career Academy, or if you'd like to talk to Cassandra about what it's like to utilize some of these student workforce opportunities. It's just incredible, all the options that students have now compared to just 10 or 20 years ago. And I'm incredibly proud of the Nashua CTE program and New Hampshire Career Academy. So if you have a rising senior and are looking for options and aren't in the Nashua School District, I'm happy to connect you with John or someone else from New Hampshire Career Academy. I know for a fact that Helayne and all of the wonderful teachers at the CTE program are always looking for communication with businesses, and I'm happy to make those connections as well. And I'm just throwing Cassandra under the bus and saying that she would be happy to help also. So
Absolutely.
But thank you, all four of you, for being here. This was so informative. It looks like we have one last question in the pot. Oh, Adriana just saying thank you very much for your insightful words. So I second that. It was so educational, and I look forward to working with you all and hearing more from your organizations in the future. And if you are watching right now, please stay tuned. We will be having our second workforce development series in May. It'll be May 29th. And then our final one will be on June 26th. And each one has a different focus about workforce development and opportunities in the area. So thank you all. Have a wonderful day.